What's going on, everyone? Rachel West here, along with Rick Stroud and Joey Knight, here to recap the Bucs Saints game. Joey, it wasn't such a happy Halloween for the Bucs over there in New Orleans. The Saints defense really did a number on them yet again. What is it about that defense that the Bucs just struggle with so much?
It sounds simple, Rachel. They're really good. They have elite players over there. They have a lot of players that can move in and out of that secondary. And historically, it has given this franchise fits, and it has given Tom Brady fits. Rick brought this number up, I believe, not 100% sure, but I believe Tom Brady has 17 interceptions during his tenure with the Bucs, and 7 of them have come against the Saints. This is a team that puts pressure on him up the middle. They get in his face, force him to make some throws, some hasty throws that he may not like to make. And on top of that, not only is this an elite defense, but Tom just made some bad throws. If you look at that final pick six that sealed the game last night, he kind of telegraphed the throw, and the defender was right there and grabbed it, kind of a routine NFL interception, if you will. And Tom said bad throws. That's been his issue with his team. He was a little terse in the post game. He was not happy. Didn't say much, but he said, I made some bad throws in that game, and he did. So part of it was on Tom Brady, and part of it is this is just a very well coached, loaded defense, and their coordinator Dennis Allen has given Bruce Arians' teams historically a lot of problems, and they continue to.
Yep. Well, turnovers was just part 1A of the problem last night. Part 1B, Rick, penalties. And they knew going into the game yesterday that they were probably going to be facing a high amount of penalties with the referee that they had in that game.
Well, they were warned, and that's the thing. Bruce Arians told them that Clete Blakeman is a guy that always protects the quarterback. His crew probably throws more roughing the passer penalties than any in the NFL, and they knew that going in, and yet you still saw the horse collar tackle on Jameis Winston, which unfortunately for him ended his season with a torn ACL and then MCL damage as well, when Devin White grabbed him by the jersey, and then back-to-back roughing the passer penalties on Devin White and Will Golston that negated an interception in the end zone by Antoine Winfield Jr., who was busy eating W's when the flag was dropped. So, it's just been a problem when you have, 11 for 99, something like that, yards. They're second, I think, in the league in penalties that they've accrued this year. They have talked about them ad nauseum. This happened again last year, but after the Chicago game in week 5, the players were accountable. They took it upon themselves. And there's something about the New Orleans Saints. We talked about this before the game, how this was going to become a brawl, and it did. And they were baited into some things. Certainly the taunting penalty on Devin White out of bounds was uncalled for, and they had a lot of PIs as well. So, they beat themselves as much as the Saints beat them with a third string quarterback that played pretty well. They should not have lost that game. And the reason is, I think primarily, obviously, turnovers that Joey spoke of and the penalties.
And Joey, penalties has been such a big focus for them, not just this week, but all season. And it's obviously going to continue to be a big part of the conversation. Now, as they head into the bye week this week, how do they fix that problem?
I think, people will ask, well, what kind of message does Bruce Arians send to his team about these penalties? I think the message was sent yesterday. They're grown men. They see how they cost themselves the game. Their self-infliction led to this loss, a loss they can ill afford in a very top-heavy NFC this year in terms of playoff purposes. This could be a costly defeat down the road. And I think the players, that performance is the message. We can't go out and do this again. And to their credit, last year they got a similar message in Chicago with that Thursday night loss, another just penalty marred defeat, in addition to Vita Vea going down with his broken ankle. And they got the message. And from that Chicago game forward, they were the least penalized team in the league. And Bruce Arians will be the first to tell you, just their discipline was a big key, kind of an understated key to their Super Bowl title run. I think these guys will see how badly they hurt themselves yesterday and clearly will not want to repeat it. So the message has been sent, and it's in the form of the game tape.
Yes, they really have no other option but to clean up their play a little bit there. So hopefully they're able to do that in the coming weeks. And Rick, can you be a little bit of a beacon of hope here for fans who might be stressing out about the season and all, like it's over, no way that they're going to go back to back now or get to the playoffs, whatever. I mean, they've got the bye week now coming up, and they got a lot of guys who have been injured for a long time that they might be getting back here coming up here shortly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the positive news, I guess. You know, they're living in their hopes that they could get back their two starting corners, Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting, who dislocated his elbow in week 1. They'd love to see those guys after the bye week. It still remains to be seen. Until guys are on the field, you really don't know. The bad news is that, you know, Rob Gronkowski tried to play in that game against the Saints. Bruce Arians said it was a mistake in hindsight. He played only 6 snaps on offense in the first half. He had back spasms. And I think the most daunting thing that Bruce Arians said on Monday was that those back spasms were related to his injury, to his back injury, to the cracked ribs. And this is a guy that's had some 18 surgeries in his career. So you wonder about lingering effects with Rob Gronkowski, and just, is this something that, you know, could potentially land him on IR or worse? And so, you know, all those things have to be worked out. Certainly the rest will help. This is a tired football team. They played a very physical game against a very physical team. But look, they're in great shape. I mean, they got a half game lead. That'll be erased probably after the bye week in the NFC South. They'll see the Saints again. The Saints lost their starting quarterback. And even though they won this game, they've got to go forward without him. So they've got some problems of their own. In an injury standpoint, the Bucs still have Tom Brady, and as long as you have Tom Brady, you've got some hope. So that's the key.
Exactly. Yep. Something tells me this loss isn't going to sit too well with them, and in a couple of weeks they'll get things back on track here. So until then, guys, make sure you're keeping up with all of our Bucs coverage over on social media at Sports by Tampa Bay Times, as well as over at tampabay.com.